What are you doing in the UK? You're now living in San Francisco, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that, and tell us why you're here and what you're up to.
Well, there has been a very big journey for me. I mean, my life is a huge journey anyway, and I got to a point where I felt that I wanted to leave London, having lived here for over 15 years, move to San Francisco, which I felt California was definitely the mecca of all spirituality, and and there's the Hay House books and all of these great spiritual gurus. And I thought to myself, I cannot name one spiritual teacher that was coming out of the UK a couple of years ago. Right. I couldn't think of anybody. And I was thinking, well, really, where are we in England in terms of spirituality? And at the time, the law had just changed for mediums and psychics, where we were coming under consumer rights, which I think on one level is a really good thing, and on another level is so confusing. It's hard to kind of really see how that's going to work.
Yeah.
But I do think people need to be more protected, so I think that it's not such a bad thing. And of course we had the Richard Dawkins and his documentaries that were coming out at the time, and he was putting things on the sides of buses, God doesn't exist, and I just thought, I'm done. I need to get out of here. I'm going to go to the spiritual mecca. And of course what I've realised being in California is everything works on polarities. So in order for something to become incredibly spiritual, it has to be really awful first. So America has much stronger polarities between negative and positive. So the polarities are more obvious. Whereas in the UK, we're just constantly fed up. But we're not really fed up. We need to be more fed up to become more spiritual.
Yeah.
Because it's only really when things get really bad do you actually do anything about it. So when I realised that being over in America, I kind of thought, it wasn't quite how I anticipated it to be, but I knew that it would be the best place to birth my book, Intuitive Lovers. I actually found it really hard to finish Intuitive Lovers in the UK. And I'd already booked the flight before I found out that Eckhart Tolle actually finished A New Earth in San Francisco, because he felt he couldn't finish it in London. So I was like, ooh, it's a sign! So I went over there, and during my first semester, I decided, because I went over there as a student, because really, to be honest, to get a visa over there to be there for any chunk of time, being a student is the right way to do it, because they give you what's known as an OPT at the end of it. So I've got the right to work in America now.
What's that, OPT? What does that stand for?
It's like, I can't remember, occupational...
Doesn't matter, okay.
Can't remember.
Just curious.
Yeah, one of those things. So, so what I realised is that I could actually promote the book over there and talk about the book, and legally, because I could work. So that was really, really helpful. So I finished the book in my first semester at California Institute of Integral Studies. I finished the book in the first semester there, and then it's just come out 3 months early. So I'm very excited, and I'm really proud of this book. It's something that I want to give the best chance possible to. So I actually, crazily, sold my house to be able to have the money to be able to promote and launch the book in the States, gave away all my belongings, and tootled off, put the dog on an aeroplane, and went over to California to do this. And whether or not it was a good or a stupid decision will only be known in hindsight, and we're not there yet. I'm just making the assumption it was a good decision, and I'll stick with that.
What a great example of following your passion. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this is the thing, if you're going to be a spiritual teacher and talk to people about doing all of this stuff, it's fine and easy to do that when you've got a lot of money and you can go and sit, on a beach and write your book. That's great. When you haven't got the kids screaming and the dog barking and you've got to get up to work, and it's really easy to be able to be spiritual when your feathers are not completely ruffled. It's like being an angel, isn't it? You've got to... Spirituality is not just something that you do for work. You've got to walk your talk. You've got to be living your life in that way. Otherwise, who would want to listen to you, I think. Yeah.
Before we talk, before we talk a bit about Intuitive Lovers, which is the book you're just talking about, let me talk about your previous book.
Yes.
And I know you've written a third one, but we'll stick to the two main ones, shall we?
Sure.
The Advanced Psychic Development, which I thought was actually really great.
Thank
now,
you.
When you wrote that, you were writing it from the perspective of, you know, I am a psychic, I'm already in this work. This is to actually to enable people to understand what goes on. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the book and why, you know, someone would want to buy it, someone out there maybe would actually want to buy it and find out more?
Okay. The Advanced Psychic Development book was very much, really, it was born out of my frustration at the industry, and it's an industry of psychics.
Okay.
Mainly because, and again, back to the future prediction problem, the brain gets infused with chemicals, really happy chemicals, when you're told good news. And of course, when your brain gets saturated with chemicals, when you're told good news, it's more chemicals and more happiness than if the good news happens. So of course, what that creates is that it becomes addictive to go and see psychics. And what I really wanted to do is there's no governing body, there's no protection for psychics, and really, in a sense, psychic people are like the child at school that was really wonderful at drama and got the lead in all of the school plays. Then that child goes to drama school and his talent becomes ordinary. And so what happens when other psychics get with other psychics and their talent to be able to listen and even to be adored by people and to fix people's problems becomes ordinary. So it is the most unspiritual environment I have ever been in. It's incredible, and I felt like I wanted to create a book of support for people who felt that they had psychic ability. And it drove me crazy because there's so many books on the market, 10 steps to psychic development, you know, sort of psychic development whilst drinking tea. You know, there's all of these books, but nothing to aid you once you knew that you were intuitive or you were born intuitive and you know that you have these talents. What are you supposed to do with it? Is it something, if you don't want to be a reader, if you don't want to tell people things about themselves, how can you apply intuition in everyday life? Of what benefit actually is it to you? Because, you know, if it was of great benefit, like you could have the lottery numbers or whatever, well, I'm sorry, but I'd probably be drinking a pina colada somewhere right now. I don't know.
But you wouldn't be here with me.
I'm sorry. Well, we both have a pina colada. That's what we do.
We'd be on the beach filming.
Exactly. I'd have flown you out.
Absolutely.
But it was really important to me to actually make this less airy-fairy and make it very practical.
So give us an example of the practicality of that then, because I think people would be interested to, you know, how can I apply it in my life, you know?
Well, that was the next book, which is how can you apply it to your relationships, because that was the most important thing for me. No, I spent most of my time using my psychic ability for boys that I fancied at school. That was one of the greatest practical applications of it. It really was. So I feel that most of life is full of anxiety. It's full of not knowing, and that's why relationships are the worst, because, you know, it's somebody else's free will. So life is full of anxiety, and I wanted to give people tips to be able to use intuition to take the anxiety out of life, to get out of the voice in the head. Because the voice in the head, which is the ego, which is the monkey mind, which will tell you all sorts of negative things about yourself or about environments. It can be very judgmental against other people, and it can be very angst-ridden when you listen to the mind and you try and get the mind to solve your dilemmas. The inner knowing doesn't go round and round in circles. It goes to one direction. And so really, to be able to listen to yourself, know what you want before the monkey mind comes in and starts sabotaging you by telling you that you're going to be too rubbish to be able to do X, Y, Z. So, for example, selling my house at a point where the economy it was not a good time to sell a property.
Yeah.
Everybody was telling me,
according to everyone out there,
don't sell your house. It's a huge mistake. You'll never get back into London again. And I'm like, my inner knowing is telling me. And they're like, but you'll have to come home in a few months. What if you don't get the visa? What if? But my inner knowing was like, I need to sell my house. I won't need any of this stuff again. I'm going to give it all away. And people really panic for you. So you're flying in the face of everybody's concern. You're flying in the face of all of these things, and there's an inner knowing that you can't put into words. And people will say, but how do you know it's going to be okay? I can't tell you how I know, I just know. And then therefore, I don't have the same kind of anxiety that most people do. And that's what advanced psychic development is about, is it's advanced conscious living without anxiety.